All right, let's start looking at a few different kinds of burners and what all they do, what they're good for, what they're not good for, pros and cons, and all of that. Okay, the very first wood burner that we're going to talk about is the Walnut Hollow Versatool. So this is the most basic wood burning tool that is out there. It's available at most craft stores. You can get it on Amazon as well. It's relatively affordable, 30-40 bucks. Sometimes stores have a coupon that you can use with it too. So it is really accessible, really easy to find, and relatively cheap. However, I personally do not like this tool. It is great for some people. Some people really, really love this tool. And there are a lot of professional pyrographers out there that use this tool and this tool only. Okay, and their art looks fantastic. They don't have any problems with it at all. Now, for me, why I don't like it is because I did not start with this tool. So even though this is a beginner tool, I did not begin with this tool. I actually begun with a professional wood burning tool. It was David's grandpa's that he found in the wood shop, and I got the opportunity to like play with it. And that was a professional tool, which is, it's like the nibs are different, the pen is different, just the whole world of professional wood burning tools is totally different than the Walnut Hollow Versatool. So I don't really like it. I didn't start with it. It doesn't feel natural to me. I'm very clumsy with this thing. I just don't get a good burn with this unit, but I don't want that to dissuade you. It's not a bad tool. It's just not for me. Okay. There are plenty of people who like this tool, who use it and who get beautiful, fantastic art out of it. A few basic things about it. This is all one single unit. So this is the heat dial. It can go pretty hot and pretty cool. You don't actually get very much control on the unit though. Let me turn that back off. And this thing is slow to heat up and slow to cool down. So like if I want to start wood burning with this thing, I'm going to need to turn it all the way up to red and then walk away for like 5 minutes and then come back, right? Like this thing heats up very, very slow. One of the other things about it is that the nibs here, they screw in to the rest of the wood burning bit. So it's hot, you know, I just turned it on. It's a little warm, so I can't touch it right now. But this is what they look like. They screw in. One of the cons about this feature, though, is that, like, because it's hot, even though I turned it off, it's going to take a while to cool down. I can't switch out the nib very easily unless you have a pair of pliers that you could clamp on and, like, twist it off and then put a new one in and twist it on and then keep going. But if you don't have pliers yet, you're just gonna have to wait for this thing to cool down before you can switch nibs, and that can take a lot of time. A lot of people are really impatient with that, and so they just don't find that that is worth their time to them. But overall, this, I mean, it's a fine basic wood burning tool. I get very frustrated with it. I know a lot of other pyros who do get frustrated with it, but if it's what you have and it's what you want to start with, there's absolutely no problem with starting with it. Play with it, play with the nibs, play with the heat, see what you are getting. Like if you're getting a really good burn from it and you don't have a problem with that at all, that's awesome, you know, more power to you. But if you find that you are frustrated or it's going too slow for you, or, you know, there's just other things you don't like about it, that's totally normal. A lot of people start with this, don't like it, and then they upgrade to a more professional unit. So that's a little scoop on the Versatool. Walnut Hollow also has this unit. So this is the Creative Burner. It is, I mean, it's a little heavy duty thing, but this thing is like $100. At least it was when it first came out pre-COVID. This thing was like $100. And honestly, in my opinion, if you're willing to drop $100 on a wood burner, don't spend that $100 on this one. It's fine. And again, there are people who use this thing and they love it and they have no problems with it at all. It's just a preference thing. And if this is what you have, this is what you have. And a lot of people will just make that work. But when it comes to looking at a tool to buy, you're not sure which one to buy, I really don't recommend this one. It's fine, but I just don't recommend it. Similar to the Versatool, this is all one unit. So the pen is connected, the cord is connected, and it just travels all together. It is one unit. The heat dial goes from 1 to 10, and this does not have a very high heat. That's another thing that I don't really care for. It doesn't get very hot, and that means that you have to go slower. You have to do layer after layer of shading to get to the darkness of shading that you want. You have to go over your lines sometimes multiple times in order to get the boldness that you want. Like, this thing is slow. It's low and slow. So again, I just don't personally like that, but some people don't mind it. The nibs for this one, these are called interchangeable nibs. They do not screw in. So here's the comparison. This one is a lot chunkier. This one is about half as wide, I would say. More like a pen or a pencil, but still not as slim as it could be. And the nibs, they plug in, and you have to use these little, hold on, let me get it. You have to use these little clamp things that come with it to get in there and then pull it out whenever you're ready to switch your nib. So the nibs have a little notch on them right there, and the inside of, let's see, where is it? The inside right here has this notch, and you have to line them up, and you kind of have to use a little bit of force here. You push it in. Some will click, some won't, but you'll feel when it's pretty snugly in there. And then you can turn it on and get going. Then when you want to switch your nib, you turn your unit off, you grab your thingies. Just got to be careful not to burn yourself, right? And then it's kind of hard. They fit very snugly. There we go. And then you can just put this off to the side. So that's this unit. Like I said, not a huge fan. If you're going to spend $100, there is a better unit that I would recommend investing in. And we'll look at that one here in just a second. The third unit that I want to look at is this one. It is the Detailer Colwood Cub. So this exact unit is the one that I started with 5 years ago. But this thing is like from the 90s. This was David's grandpa's that was in the wood shop that I took and was using. Like, this is an old model. They don't put this on the side of their units anymore. You can see it's like really old and scratched up, but this thing still works. It has, because it's older, like it has some flaws and sometimes the cord gets a little janky, but this thing is really awesome. As far as I know, Colwood still sells these on their website. I think they're like $80, maybe 85 or 89, but they are less than $100. However, these units don't come with any nibs. You get to select which nibs that you want to buy, and they are all separate. Now, this thing goes from a 1 to a 10 as well, which, let me just point out, the 1 to 10 heat range on all of these units is different. Just because they all say 1 to 10 doesn't mean that they all have the same heat. So a 1 on this machine is different than a 1 on the other machine. A 7.5 on this machine burns a lot hotter than a 7.5 on the other one. So it's not a universal scale that they're all going off of. They all have their own heat range, which makes each unit independent and very individual. Like, your unit will work differently than my unit. Okay, so just wanted to put that out there as well. The pens and nibs for this unit are removable. So far the other two wood burning units, you can't remove the pen, but with this unit you can. They make a few different kinds of pens, and the nibs that go on these pens are all interchangeable, like the Creative Burner we just saw before this one. So you can pull them out, swap them out, put them in a different pen, whatever. The pens just kind of snap on like that. These two pens, you can tell that this one is like basically brand new. Not completely brand new, but basically brand new, because like I haven't used it much. But you want to see why I haven't used it much? It is because this happens to all of my Colwood pens. Okay, So I don't want to be prejudiced, but I really do not recommend, and I do not like the Colwood pens and nibs. However, I do really like the wood burning machine. So if you were so inclined, you could buy just the machine and then go buy your pens and nibs from somewhere else. I just find that the quality of the black casing on their pens is no good. I cannot tell you how many of these things have cracked. Do you see that? I put a Sharpie to kind of like expand it. Cracked. And this was almost a brand new thing. Like the cork is not tainted or like discolored or anything, but it cracked. I have gone through 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7, I would say about half a dozen of these pens. And every time when one would crack, I would reach out to Colwood and say, hey, this happened again. And the answer from their customer service was, well, I'm just burning too hot, which I think is absolutely ridiculous because I burn at a 6, 7, or 8. I'm not abusing the machine. I'm not burning all the way at a 10 all the time. Like, I am using the machine as it was intended to be used, and their nibs and pens just won't hold up to the job. I have only ever had bad experiences with their nibs and pens, so I do not recommend them. There are a lot of other pyro artists that, you know, love Colwood. They swear by it. They've never had a problem with theirs. So I don't know. I don't know what the deal is, but I have always been the one that they say that I'm doing it wrong. I'm burning wrong, which I think that's absolutely ridiculous. And I think that that's a pretty cheap answer for having a cheap product. If you have a product that does not stand up to the wear and tear of what it's designed to do, then it's not a good design. And that's just what I have found again and again and again with the Colwood pens. The nibs themselves are not great quality either, especially the interchangeable ones. So I find that this motion of having to pull out the nib over and over and swap them out and swap them out and swap them out is part of the reason why the plastic cracks. And the nibs themselves have cracked. I have had a couple of nibs where the plastic has cracked kind of down here by the prongs. I have had a couple of nibs where the soldering joint, where like the tip of the nib meets these prongs here, has literally melted and cracked from me burning, I don't know, for, you know, like an hour or so at like a 7. It burned, or it melted and cracked. Like, what the heck? And then I've had a couple of them like crack in the middle. Let me try to, like, in the middle of the plastic here. And I just think that that's absolutely ridiculous. For the price that you pay to always have to be replacing your nibs, I just think that it's a problem. So I don't recommend them, but I do love their unit. Like I said, this thing is from the 90s at least, and it is still kicking. It still works, and it's pretty awesome. It has a really high heat. The range is really awesome. And if you were to go up to a 10, you can literally get flames whenever you touch down your nib to wood. It'll burst into flames because that is how hot that it is getting. And then you can get any temperature from 0 to flames between here. So it has a really good range. You can get a lot of detail out of it. And so I think that their units are really great, but their pens, not so much. Okay, that being said, let's look at the 4th unit. The 4th unit is this Optima 1 by PJL Enterprises. Okay, I love this unit. I am not sponsored. This is not an ad. I just love this unit. I've been using this one since 2020, since I upgraded from the old Colwood, and I have not looked back. I have not looked back. It's absolutely fantastic. So it has, let's see, the camera is a little close. It has a dial, or it has an on and off switch. This part comes off because this maker makes a heavy duty cord and a like normal cord. So I have the heavy duty one because this is me that we're talking about here. So of course I have the heavy duty one. It comes off. Let me pull up the cord, and it has the interchangeable pens just like the Colwood. Now, what is cool with both of these units is that their pens, even though they're two different manufacturers, two different makers, their pens are interchangeable with each other's units. So if you have a Colwood unit, you can use the pens and nibs from PJL Enterprises because their pens, they're the same. They have the same anatomy, and this is what they do. So they work together. So this is actually a really good combo. It's kind of weird. It's a little non-traditional because you would be buying a burner with no nibs from one company and then buying only nibs and no burner from another company. And so they might think that that's kind of weird, especially if you tell them what you're doing, like if you order on the phone or something. But it is a good bang for your buck. So like I said, I think this unit is like $80 to $90. And the PJL pens are the best quality. They blow the Colwood ones out of the water. Like there's not even a comparison to be made because these are so much better. They don't look much different, right? They both have black casing, and this one has a foam grip and this one has a cord grip. And that's basically it, right? But I have never had a problem with a single PJL nib. Also, their PJL's nibs, they're all fixed, so this part does not come out. To change your nib, you just have to change out the whole pen. So I have a whole bunch of different pens with all different kinds of nibs, and they all plug in, right? I think Colwood also offers those are called fixed tip pens or fixed tip nibs. I think Colwood also offers fixed tip pens, but I never gave them a try because I just stopped trusting them, to be completely honest with you. And I have not given them any more of my money because I was tired of going through these nibs. And so why would I think that the other nibs would be any different? So anyway, that's just my personal vendetta against Colwood, but I really do love the Optima ones. They've never given me any trouble. They are great quality. I have never had a nib break. I've never had a nib melt. I've never had broken plastic. I really do think that they are far superior. And the insulating material here, the foam, is a lot better than the cork. And then the black casing of the actual unit, or the actual pen unit, is a lot better. It's sturdier, it's thicker, it's not as cheap. So that's a little bit of a comparison. This unit will also go, like I said, it goes from 1 to 10. It will also get red hot. So you turn it all the way on, you crank it up, your nibs will get red hot. Of course, I don't recommend always burning at a red hot temperature, but I'm just letting you know that is the range of heat that we are looking at here. Whereas the first two units that we talked about, the Versatool and the Creative Burner, do not get anywhere near red hot. So those have a little bit more of a limited temperature range, a little bit more limited workability of what it'll do, but the Optima one here, I think it's fantastic. I really do, and the price point, I really do think that this is the best bang for your buck because this unit is like $100 on its own. And then, of course, you have to buy each nib. So whenever you go to buy this unit, it only comes with one nib or one pen. You get to pick which one that is. And then each additional one is $20. But like I said, I've had this unit for 3 years now, and I have a dozen of the nibs, and they have all lasted. So $20 for one nib that lasts a really long time is a lot better than buying an $8 nib that only lasts you a couple of months with Colwood. So anyway, like I said, I think this is the hidden gem of the pyrography world. Of course, there are a lot of pyros out there who have their differences in opinion. There are people who use Colwood who absolutely love Colwood and don't have any problems. There are people who like the Optima. There are people who will tell you to invest in one of the burners that has the dual burner. So there are some burners that have 2 of these. You can plug in 2 different pens, 2 different cords at the same time, so that way you don't have to swap out the actual pen. You can just pick up the other one and keep going. I don't think that that's necessary, at least for the way I burn and my kind of art, the way you know, I do my work. I don't need a dual burner, so I don't need one that has 2 ports. There are also some wood burners that have screens where you can get really, really precise temperature measurements for like whatever temperature you're burning at. I don't need that. Some people really like it and they swear by it and they're like, oh, it's better for me, blah, blah, blah. But I have never felt like I'm missing out on anything with those burners, and I just can't justify spending $300 to $400 on a unit when I'm absolutely in love with the one that I already have, and it does everything that I need it to do. So that's a little bit about burners. I hope that this was helpful and just kind of gives you a little bit of an insight into what the different burners are like. Just kind of hear somebody talk about them. Let me know if you have any questions at all. I'm always here. DM me on Instagram, shoot us an email, or send me a message on Facebook.